If you're doing at least $1 million a year in total revenue right now, bare minimum, and you want the best automations that you can set up in your Klaviyo account to just bring in consistent, reliable revenue every single month, then you're in the right place. That's exactly what we are going over today. So once again, this is not for the little brands that are just pulling in like 10, 20, 30K a month. This is for the brands that are doing at the bare minimum at least $1 million per year, which is about $83,000 per month. And if you're doing even more than that, like $200,000 a month, 500K a month, even $1 million a month plus, you're gonna get even more out of implementing these flows in the exact way that I'm talking about them in this video. And a lot of this is going to be geared towards e-commerce brands, but we've implemented these same types of systems for a lot of different types of businesses in different niches, and it still performs very well. All right, so first and foremost, and this is probably the most important one, is the welcome series. So the whole purpose of your welcome flow is to take the people that just opted into your email list, whether it was from your website or maybe some other promotion that you were doing somewhere else, and we want to establish context with them, introduce them to the brand, deliver whatever lead magnet we use to get them to join the list, and ultimately get them to make that first purchase as soon as possible. And if they're not ready to make that first purchase yet, we want to give them the education and context that they need in order to make that purchase in the future when they are ready. So a lot of what I'm going to be talking about in this video is about the purpose of each of these flows and how you want to use them. But I also want to give you as much insight as I can into how to actually build out the flow and strategize it from the ground up. So when it comes to the welcome series, there are kind of 5 steps here that we like to stick to in terms of the actual content itself. So the first part that has to be done right away is we want to establish context and kind of deliver that lead magnet that they wanted in the first place. The number one thing here is you never want people to be confused about exactly how you can help them and how your business will make their life better or whatever problem they're trying to solve, how your business will make that better. It should be crystal clear, it should be very concise, it should be easy for you to articulate to them, and you have to give them reasons to care about it. The other crucial aspect of these first 2 steps is establishing that value proposition, which is pretty much what I was just saying. Like, what's the real value proposition that your business brings to them? Literally from email number 1, that should be the first thing that you get across the board to them. Then of course, right away, we want to be delivering that lead magnet, and we want to, again, just be establishing context, sneak in some social proof and some of the other things that I'm going to talk about in these next few steps. Because after that, we want to share purely social proof. Because now they should understand the value proposition that you bring to the table, and now we just need to get them to trust us that we're actually good at what we say we do, or our product actually achieves the result that we say it does. So in terms of social proof, there's a lot of different ways to do this. You can do this with just sharing reviews. A great way that we like to do it is sharing contextual reviews. So we'll highlight different benefits and then share a review that backs up that specific benefit. For example, if you were to sell something like running shoes, one of the benefits might be that it makes the soles of your feet never hurt after you're done running. And then you would attach a review to that where it's someone saying that exact thing, like, you know, it stopped the soles of my feet from hurting when I was running. The next thing you want to do in the welcome flow is handling objections. So every single product or service has a lot of objections that are going to pop up no matter what it is. And you want to handle those, maybe not by specifically saying that you're just going to be handling objections in this email, but you want to handle them by kind of like peppering in the answers. And the best way to handle objections is not by just saying what your answer would be. Like, for example, let's say you sell a supplement that helps with inflammation in your joints. If the objection someone has towards that is just that, you know, they're afraid of some like rash they get when they take that specific ingredient, you can't just say, you know, like, no, you won't get that rash with what we do, because they don't trust you enough to do that. You have to handle that objection with proof, meaning social proof, going back to that last step, or data or studies or whatever it is. This is something that's called testable evidence, meaning you want to back things up by giving someone a piece of evidence that they can actually test themselves or in their own brain. Another way you can do that is with a story or an example. If it's something that can easily just be explained by logic, you can use an example to say, if this were to happen, would you X, Y, Z? Then they realize in their mind, you know, actually that's true, I wouldn't do X, Y, Z. And the last aspect of this that should be used in all of your welcome emails is just inspiring action. You want to sprinkle in little CTAs throughout every single step of all of your emails. Because one mistake that I'll see a lot of brands make is that they just don't use CTAs that often. And their emails will not even have a button until like the very bottom. So make sure that every single value proposition or every single benefit or every single social proof, whatever it is that you're including there, it all funnels towards a call to action that's clear, concise, and easy to understand. All right, flow number 2 for businesses doing at least $1 million a year is the complete abandonment flow system. So this is really 4 different flows, but I'm kind of putting it all into one here so I can give you as much, value as possible. So first off, the whole purpose of an abandonment flow is to take an action that someone took on your website, and when they leave or abandon the website, that's where you hit them with this specific flow of emails. So to give you some examples here, we've got a site abandonment flow, a browse abandon flow, cart, and checkout abandon flows. Now, typically this is used in the e-commerce context. It'll typically look a little bit different if you're like a SaaS business, for example, or like an info product business or things like that. But just for context, for the site abandonment flow, that's where people are browsing on the website, but they leave without looking at any products. The browse abandon flow means that they looked at products, but they didn't add any to their cart. Cart abandon means they added items to their cart, but they didn't get to the checkout page. And then the checkout abandonment means they were all the way to the checkout page, but they didn't quite make the purchase. And the entire reason of splitting these out is because we want to handle the objections that people have at each stage of abandonment. For example, if you're browsing a product page, you have very different objections than the person that got all the way to checkout. If you got all the way to checkout, you obviously expressed interest in that product, and you likely only got held back by something like the price or the shipping time or the guarantee, or just little details like that. If you abandon at the browse level or at the site level, maybe the value proposition just wasn't big enough. Or maybe there's certain information about that product specifically that's not told on the product page or whatever page they saw before getting to the product page. So what you want to do is you want to map out what those objections might be based on what your business is and what you sell and what your market thinks, and then attack those in those abandonment flows based on where they abandoned. All right, so next up is the first time buyer series. So this is especially important, especially for brands doing at least $1 million a year, because you have a lot of people that are buying from you. And if you want to raise their lifetime value, therefore, so that you can spend less to acquire those people, when they buy, that introduction after they make that first purchase is extremely important to whether or not they're going to continue buying from you in the future, or whether or not they're going to introduce their friends or their family to you. And so there are two main things that I want to preach here in terms of the value that you give before they receive the product, and then also how you upsell them after they receive the product. Because the thing that a lot of brands will jump into here is just wanting to upsell people right away. But if someone hasn't even had a chance to receive the product and use it, then they're just gonna get pissed off when you're sending them emails trying to sell them other products and they haven't even tried the one that they already bought from you. Instead, the approach you wanna take here is essentially hyping up their order before they get it. That means, how do they use the product? What are the benefits that they should look forward to about the product? How can they get the most out of the product? Is there anything that they need to watch out for about the product? These are the type of questions that you wanna answer before they actually receive the product that they ordered. This gets them excited, this gets them watching out for it, and on top of that, when someone's educated about a product before they receive it, they're much more likely to use it and therefore get the benefit that it provides. Now, you want to strategically time out this first time buyer series so that they don't start getting those upsells until after they've had a chance to actually use the product for whatever amount of time is important for them to use your product. And the other thing here, and that you can kind of see in this graph, is that you don't want to just do like 2 or 3 upsells like a lot of these brands will do. If you really want to do this right, you should map out an extreme, robust upsell strategy that's based on what they purchased. Now, that's going to look very different if you just sell 1 to 5 products versus if you have a store that sells a ton of different products. But even in that case, you can do it based on collection or category. But the key here is just don't sell yourself short on the upsells, because if you only do like 1 or 2 upsells, someone could just ignore 1 or 2 emails or be busy those 2 days. And now you got 0 upsell out of them unless they love the product and just come back on their own. And that's what leads to people having a flow like this built out, but it's not producing much results. And then they're like, why not? Well, it's because you're barely even doing anything with the flow. Especially in today's day and age where people are signed up to a bunch of different email lists, you need to do a lot more marketing here than you used to have to do. All right, the fourth flow here is the customer win-back flow. Now, very similar to the last first-time buyer series flow, we don't want to just do like 1 email here and say, we miss you and here's 10% off. You really need to consider what would be the reason that someone stopped buying from us. And that time frame is going to be very different based on what it is that you sell. But let's say that you bought a product and it was a sleep product, so it helps you sleep more deeply, it helps you sleep better, whatever it is. So you use the product and it's good. It's not amazing, but it's good, and you're kind of starting to run out of whatever the product was, and your next order would be $45, for example. You might kind of look at that and you're like, this was good. Do I really want to buy it again for another $45? Probably not. If you email that person and all you say is, we miss you, FYI, they don't care that you miss them, and you give them 10% off, that's probably not going to be enough for them to actually go back and make their next purchase. You need to do real marketing here. Like, for example, what are the hesitations that they have about not making that next purchase? What other value adds could you add, whether it's a free little cheap product that you can make for free that if you were to give it to them, but in exchange they make another purchase, it's well worth it? What are all the benefits that they only achieve if they continue to use the product long term? And also, based on your margins and what you can actually get away with, can you give them a super compelling offer that would get them to come back? And the main thing you want to ask yourself here is, what would we be willing to give in order to get this person to make another purchase with us? And you can also consider, based on what they purchased, what were some other products that you offer or other services that you offer that would help them out in a better way instead. Those are all the types of things that you want to think about when you're building out this win-back flow. But keep in mind, you also don't want to overdo it. Because if you're sending like 6, 8 emails in this flow, someone might get super pissed off about that, and then they're just gonna mark you as spam complaint rate. So you kind of want to find that balance between, we don't want to just send like 2 emails and that's it. But we also don't want to send them 10 emails in a week and try to win them back and they're just pissed off about the product to begin with. All right, so the 5th and final flow here are the SMS flows that actually convert. Now, there are a lot of different flows that you can implement with SMS. I'm gonna wrap them all into this one step. The first one is the SMS welcome flow. So a few best practices for the SMS welcome flow is that, obviously you wanna establish a text communication with them. So one thing that you wanna do pretty early on in this flow is send your contact card to them so that they can save you in their contacts as your business's name. For example, our business is Rame Copy, so if I was sending out an SMS abandonment flow or something like that, an SMS welcome series, I would send a contact card that says like, hey, save us in your contacts as Rame Copy. And then they can just click the contact card and it saves it. It's pretty easy to set up. Another strategy that we've seen work really well is implementing a response-based welcome sequence. So this means that early on in that welcome flow, because obviously with SMS, you're limited in terms of the number of actual characters that you can use compared to an email. So you can say, hey, what's the problem that you're dealing with most? Or like, what's the thing that you're trying to solve here? Based on what you actually sell, you have to kind of like figure out what to say here. Like, what's the problem you're dealing with? And then you say, reply with a number below based on what it is. And then you can say, like, for example, 1 equals joint inflammation. 2 equals high blood sugar. 3 equals bad sleep. And then based on the number that the person replies with, they get entered into a separate response-based series that speaks directly at that pain point and how you can solve it with your products. This is a great way to give them a very personalized approach within that SMS welcome flow. Now, the other aspect of this is the SMS abandonment flows. So because of regulations, you can only send 1 SMS in each of these flows. So typically what we'll build out is a very simple process. We have an SMS browse flow, SMS cart flow, and SMS checkout flow. So when people abandon at each of those stages that we talked about earlier, they'd simply get an SMS about it that reminds them of what they had. And in some cases, you can give them an offer in order to get them to actually go back and make that purchase. And then if you have any pages that handle specific objections or do more like selling, kind of like a pre-sale page or an advertorial page, it might make sense to send them there from this SMS flow, but that's a little bit more rare. All right, so to conclude, if you're doing bare minimum $1 million a year, these are your top 5 Klaviyo flows that you should be implementing here in 2025. You've got the welcome flow to convert new people into buyers. You've got the 4 abandonment flows to handle those different objections that people have while browsing your products and your website. You've got your first time buyer series to give an amazing welcome introduction to the people that just bought from you for the first time, and also get them to upsell into repeat buyers. You've got the customer win back flow to recover those people that bought in the past but haven't bought in a while since. And then you've got the SMS flows to just sprinkle in a more personal connection with people throughout all of this. So with that being said, hope you found this valuable. If you want our full plug and play AI system to create angles for emails, write the emails, and even get design assets generated for your emails, we use this plug and play document all the time in terms of just helping us ideate and just assisting our whole team with creating great content for our clients. I'm gonna leave the link to get that document 100% free at the top link in the description. And if you want my full course on email and SMS marketing, click the video that's on your screen right now. That's all I got. Leave any questions in the comments. See you in the next one.